Uh-oh.
Oh boy, we're already starting. I said William too, you know?
Oh, darn it. So, um, so we're gonna try to get through this. Al, there's something going on with our videos. Al connecting to the StreamYard, which is what we use to record. So if you see Al putting his hands to his forehead, it means he's probably struggling to hear anything I'm saying at the moment. So
I got you, man.
okay, cool. So we're gonna try to get through this. Maybe what we might need to do is take Al's camera off, and maybe we can just have audio for him this time. And
That's what I got right now.
Yep. So I think that's what we're going to try to do. We sound you, or we hear you loud and clear at the moment, Al. So thanks. And yeah, let's get going. Have any thoughts early on in 2025, Al?
I feel strength.
Yeah.
So far, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely feels like we're
You?
seeing some. Yeah. I mean, um, it feels like it's definitely headed in a direction versus it being stagnant or anything like that. You know, it's always hard to tell just in a month by month basis. But I think if we just kind of look at where we were 6 months ago versus now, it definitely feels like there's an upwards trend on a decent amount of items. You know, we can always overreact to
Yeah.
like one data point here, one data point there. But overall, if we were just going to do a bunch of like a scatter plot and we see a trend, I think that we would, you know, definitely see an upwards trend. So, all right. So while we have Al, we're going to try to get through as
Yeah.
many of
I
these
think the
as we.
slope is positive. The
Yeah.
big question is how positive is the slope?
Right. And always hard to tell in a month by month. We would almost have to do like a year over year type of thing. And problem is, especially with vintage soccer, is just like the data points from January of 2024, we may not see the same data point from that particular card until March of 2027, you know? So it's kind of an odd thing with soccer,
Right.
with
That's
vintage soccer.
that's the thing with vintage soccer.
Yep. So so yeah, that's I think we both agree that there it's definitely on an upwards trend of some sort. So all right, like we're gonna hop into Golden Elite right now, and see what they had going on for the January Elite auction. If I wasn't prepared, only had a few hours to be prepared, and I forgot to do something. So let's see here.
Hey, Bill. The other thing I
Yeah.
thought of was coming in to the thing on my phone.
Okay. Yeah. Are you? Yeah, that's actually a great option, especially if you're not using video,
Yeah,
or even if you want.
let me try that as you pull your things up. I'll get out of this show and I'll try to get on via my phone.
Yep, that sounds good. Thanks, Al.
All right. Yeah.
All right. So let's see. So I think this is the correct one. Yep. Okay. So yeah, that's I don't know why I didn't think about using the phone first. That should probably be really helpful for Al. So we might wait a minute, but yeah, I don't know how you guys feel, like if you've noticed the same thing. You know, let me know in the chat if you've kind of seen an upwards trend. I mean, we've definitely seen some you know, certain things really blow up lately. But then we saw other things that, like, I was a little surprised on the low, like on like that Puskas that just sold. Like I felt like that didn't sell relative to the previous ones in worse condition. So I think we get to that in this show. Al?
Yeah, yeah. I think the Puskas, that one was a little jaggedy. I don't know if you looked at it. It had like the cut when you kind of zoomed in. There was
Mhm.
some jaggedy pieces of the cut, which I think enough people probably realized to keep that one a little bit lower. I mean, the front wasn't terrible,
Mhm.
but certainly the jaggedy nature of the edges, I'm guessing, had an impact.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, Seb just brought up 2 other Puskas at Golden at the same time. Yeah, I noticed that as well, that there's I think a 4, I think the one that sold was a 4, and then there's a 4.5, and then there's like an 8.5 as well. So a lot of Puskas on the market at the same time, which kind of sucks for those sellers, unless it's the same seller. So, all right, Al, are you able to see the screen where?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. So there wasn't a ton of vintage type stuff
I know,
in
but
the.
but those are great. I mean, don't you find some of these? I mean, I know the aluminum miles a 101, but I mean 100. I mean, that's not a small check,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
You know,
some of these are just worth talking about because it's like, holy cow.
yeah, we've had a really interesting conversation in the Discord about like prospecting and buying these players that are the super hyped players. Like it's so difficult to pull a trigger on somebody like, I mean, we've seen it with Fati and, like even Mbappe. And I mean, he's a little bit of a different thing because he has a lot more of a resume, but it's just like, it's crazy. Even if we just take into account like the autographs of Mbappe when they came out, you know what I mean? Versus now that he's getting a bunch of them out there, it's like now all of a sudden, like you just can't have that high of a market cap, you know what I mean? And so, but yeah, $100,000 for a player who's played, not too much at the highest level, and but it's that's modern, collecting. But yeah, it's an interesting um, interesting dynamic when it comes to prospecting and buying the most hyped player. It just feels like a pretty, you're gonna lose probably 95% of the times you do that. But I guess if you hit big, it's gonna pay off, But
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely gambling, right? But it's still fun for a lot of people, and
yeah,
I
I
get
mean, and
why it
the
happens.
entertainment of it, at the end of the day, that's what it is, at least partially, right? Like
Exactly.
we're not gonna collect vintage soccer if we don't enjoy it. I mean, I imagine maybe some people are, but like then I wouldn't consider it collecting, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
And even that CR7 that you go down, that sold for like 40 grand. Last time in the boom that it sold for 50 grand. It's a numbered card, one of the few, and it's kind of in the rookie constellation. So in a way,
yeah,
you could understand it, but it's not. I mean, he's in his Manchester United jersey.
yeah,
It's a it's not. It's I don't consider it clearly a rookie. It's certainly a great early numbered card, no question. And I guess you could have a narrative that that's cheap as one of the first numbered cards, but all the other cards look basically the same to me. And I don't know. I think it's just that and the one next to it are just big sales. I feel like, I know that this isn't the market I traditionally play in, but $40,000 is a lot of money.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I mean, this one, the matchups one is all. I mean, since the boom, at least, that's been a huge, you know, a huge collected card, so like I get that. I actually get both of them to a point, like you said.
I get them. I mean, I understand it. It's just it feels, and I haven't mapped these out individually because I know that the CR7 is down via the boom, but it's only, I think it sold for like mid 50s, so it's down what,
Yeah,
20% or something.
yeah,
That's
that's
not
not
that
much.
much.
Yeah,
It's not that much.
and even the ones out of 99 do really well. From what I recall, the silver version of that. So it's always been kind of like, outside of his true rookies, like one of the more desirable cards of his. Plus, you get to plug in the Man U collectors.
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's clearly the preferred because a PSA 9 CR7 rookie mega cracks sporting, jersey doesn't sell for 41 grand.
Yeah,
So
that's
this
kind of
one's
crazy.
preferred to that, right? So the rookie in a PSA 9 sells for 10, 15 maybe. And so this is, at least two, closer to 3x.
Yeah,
Now
and I get it. It's out of 7, so like I mean that's a huge
yep,
card. So
yeah. It is a
yeah,
huge card, right? I researched this one and considered bidding on it just because that, but I'm like, wow, that's a massive price.
yeah. I mean, especially when we just talked about like that Puskas, you know what I mean? It's just like I don't know
Yeah,
how I wrap my head around like. I mean, I get it. Like I mean, Ronaldo is gonna probably have the cachet, forever versus Puskas, but like my brain just won't. Do I want something that's legitimately 20 to 30 copies or something that's a parallel of, you know?
exactly. Well,
So,
and we have certain biases that we
oh, yeah, no doubt
acknowledge.
about it. And I mean, I think that's why, like on this show, like you guys got to take our biases, with a grain of salt and, get your card that you love. So, but we're always going to have the slant towards, vintage and probably pre-war even more so.
Yeah.
But beautiful cards, beautiful autographs. Lots of Messi, lots of Yamal, lots of Messi. We have an Endrick for 13. A Mula. That's cool. I don't know what that says, but
I mean, the Endrick for 13. I mean,
yeah,
that green Messi treble. I think the last one I had went for 15 and an 8. I thought it was, so that's a little down, which is kind of surprising to see in this market. But the next one next to it, the gold prism, 10,000 out of 10. That didn't seem like that to the one on the right. I guess didn't seem terrible to me. I mean, Mbappe had a great 2022, World Cup, and so they didn't win, but I think that's a big card for the hobby too. I mean, lots of big cards for the hobby in this, even though very few of them hit where we normally spend our time.
I wonder what the normal Donruss rated rookie is because I do have a base card. um, oh my god, I bought I bought 4 Yamal rookies the other day. I'm like, none of them are numbered. They're all going to be worthless. Oh, jeez.
It's all fun, man.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the fun part. Like, they were cheap, they were cool looking. I'm like, it's not going to cost me an arm and a leg, and like, I'll get more enjoyment out of them than I paid. So, if I ever were to sell them, then cool, But, yeah, these are just. I mean, it's just mind blowing. Like watching like people sell like these huge cards. I mean, it's cool. There's a ton of money in it,
I like that Ronaldinho
Oh
autograph.
yeah,
That's really cool. But the
yeah,
thing
that's
is
great
there's
looking.
just not it's like one of those things where that's really cool, but how many more is he going to sign in his post playing career anyway? So $8,000 is a lot of money. I'd rather go after a nice rookie.
Brad says sell Ronaldo by Balancieri. Everybody's now quickly typing into Google that name. Close cut. All right, here's a Vecchi Garincha PSA 5, which is a really good grade. I don't know if there's even any graded higher. There's 6, right?
Yeah, I think there's a 1-6 and there's a few 5s. This was kind of a weak 5 to me. The back looked like it had some glue, so I felt like it was a little overgraded, but it's still on a 5 holder, so it is what it is, right?
I mean, it feels like a low price for a 5, but like if you say it is weak, then maybe that's why. Which is a great sign that people are buying the card and not, or the sticker and not the slab. But I hope that's what it is, I guess. Because that feels pretty light for a 5, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I think the last 5 was 15 grand, if I'm not wrong. But the I think the card had something to do with it. And I think that people, maybe when it traded for 15 grand, people weren't aware of earlier versions. I don't know. It's hard to know.
Oh, that could be. So maybe this is closer to correct than I want to think. 58 Monty Gum set for 4,900. I mean, lots. I mean, I've scrolled a long ways, and we're still at $3,600. So I mean, it's just
But
nuts.
it's all modern stuff, which just made me think there's a tremendous amount of money in soccer and in modern soccer, and I think it's all you need is a few of these people to trickle down to the history, and it becomes very interesting.
I mean, do you remember when we started this, and there was a lot of people talking about the like on-card autos and how they found them to be relatively cheap. And at that time, like Messi's and Ronaldo's and Maradona's were like, I mean, I'm thinking, oh my God, that's so expensive. And now like any of those are like 10x, 15x of like what they were selling for back like at the start of the, like while the boom was going on. It was like, it took a second for these on-card autos to catch up, but the people who were touting those in the Discord back then are, I'm sure, very, very happy with where we're at now.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Yeah, a whole page of $1,000 or more.
That's impressive. That's why I think that the market just feels so strong. Yep. I mean, even with the stuff that we don't normally spend our time with every day, it's definitely strong. And with the stuff that we don't, the stuff that we do spend our time with, it's also significant signs of strength.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on from. There wasn't really anything when I looked over the weeklies. I mean, there was a few things. There was like some. The only things I really were considering sharing was there was a couple of Cristiano Ronaldo sticker rookies that were lower grades. There was like a 1.5 that sold for 600, and then there was a 4 that was like around 12 or 1300 PSAs. And so, like, I mean, the fact that people are willing to, it feels like those took a really big hit for a while, and but I thought like 1300 for like a PSA 4 was pretty solid for that, because that's pretty bad shape for one of those stickers.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, we're gonna move on to the Fanatics Premier auction, and so the it's just the 2 in the top left, and then and then these four just above them. So it's 1 through 6 essentially are the ones that sold in the premier auction this time. So we have a 58 Aquarela Pele PSA 5 for 10 grand, a PSA 7 for 26 grand.
Like if you put those together, just the cards, like my eyes was like, oh, I prefer the 5.
Yeah, I definitely do. Just looking at the fronts without.
Yeah. Since I just looking at the front, it means that they're both never stuck. But just looking at the front, I'm like the centering and the colors felt better to me on the 5.
Yeah, it is just the centering looks way better, and yeah, that's pretty interesting. And that's really it for vintage. Just more Messi, more Ronaldo on cards, and here's a 1 of 1 sticker. It looks like a sticker. Actually, both of these look like stickers, or all of them are stickers.
Yeah,
37th. Yeah. Oh, that's a 1 of 1. These are 1 of 1s. So, yeah. So not much else to say there. So you got anything to say about those?
No, just that again. Look at this. Look at the dollars thrown around the modern side.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, let's get to the weekly. There's 3 weeks worth of things to look at. This is from 3 weeks ago, and I just sorted from the highest sale down. So I sorted this to 1982 and earlier. So here's a PSA 2 that went for 1,000 for that Vecchi Garincha. I mean, that's kind of back to where it was a while ago. I think at one point the ones were getting close to that, but like
at the peak, the ones were getting that, and now the two's getting that. I think this was a decent 2 from what I recall. So I think that's I think in general, Garincha, if you look at some of the other cards that we won't get to just because they're all pretty low value, have bounced back. I mean, they went up real quick, they fell real quick and hard, and now there's some betterment here in the Garincha market.
Yeah, it felt like a overcorrection, but it also could have just been market.
Yeah,
this felt kind of for a 4. Feels kind of light. Yeah,
light. Yeah, I would say that as well.
Especially when you compare it to the Pele stamp, which it feels like there's thousands of that. It is a 10 though, I guess, the stamp. So I guess I get that. People are looking for high grade stuff. This Imperia 2 for 264. I feel like those have dropped a decent amount.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite cards from the 60s. I would, if I didn't have one of these, I would be, definitely looking to get in at these price points. It's just such a gorgeous card.
Yeah. All right, let's get to 2 weeks ago. And let's see here. So we have this Beckenbauer PSA 5. That feels pretty light to me for his, head and shoulder shot of that and a 5.
Yeah, that's why I picked it up.
Hey, all right.
I could not believe that's such a hard sticker on stock in general, and then a 5's a really good grade. It puts it as a top 10 TTT card for $1,000. I couldn't pass that up, even though I had another 5. This looks great.
Yeah, that's congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah. These seem to be popping up a little bit more again. The Cruyff, the Sicker Verlag, a 2 for 500. At one point I think the ones were going for that, so it's kind of very similar to the Garincha in that regard. The 2s have gotten back to where the 1s were, but the populations have changed. We've gone through the recession, if you want to call it that, or at least the dip. And so to get 500 for a 2, that seems pretty solid. And I mean, it looks like a nice one, at least from the front.
Yeah, I can't fully remember this one, but I do feel like this was a really good 2, which made me feel like this price was relatively low based on a card adjusted view at it. But I'm not 100% sure this is the one that I saw. But I think even pre-boom, these were kind of in the arena of like 250 to 400. Yeah, look at the back. That's pretty
So
good.
there's just some marking over here on the left side. It looks like there's some paper loss, maybe with the C, and then up here under the U to the line.
But so minimal, right? You can
Yeah.
read most of it.
Right.
So, I kind of feel like this is a good, I just like this. Buying nice 2s at this price feels pretty good. And it's certainly not even 2x what you would have paid pre-boom. And that just makes me feel good for this particular card. And, it still has a relatively low pop. I mean, it's still less than 100 in total.
Mm-hmm.
And of the 100, I'm actually looking this up right now. You've got at 2 or below, you got 42, 50, like almost 60 of the less than 100 are 2 and below. So, and this is a nice 2. So it's kind of a top 50%. When you put it in that perspective,
Yeah.
feels cheap, right? At least to my eyes.
Yep. That sounds, how many 2s are there?
There are 19 2s.
Okay.
And there's 20, 25 1s, another 9 1.5s.
Okay.
And let me just put this in perspective. There's four 8s that don't have a qualifier, 3 7s, and 9 6s, right? So it's a very, very tough sticker to grade high.
PSA 4 Bergman Beckenbauer rookie for 456. That feels like a good buy too. I mean, the centering's off, top to bottom and left to right. But other than that, it kind of looks like maybe the card was pretty decent. The back looks pretty clean. Might be some toning on the one side, so maybe that's what drove it down a bit. But to get a 4 is pretty solid grade, especially at that price. The corners look pretty nice, so.
Yeah, I would also agree with that. It felt like that's a good value for the long run. It's never stuck. Most of those are stuck again. So I think the buyer got a good card there.
Yep. Here's a PSA 1 Garincha for 324. The back, you can read everything. There is some toning, some staining, but it's not like super it's not like super bad. You can read every single part of it. So I feel like that if you're looking to just enter into the Garincha early sticker section, this feels like actually a really good buy, especially being able to read the whole back.
Yeah, which is not super common in ones.
Right.
Yeah, by the way, I was just checking the Bergman, right? And in a similar situation, there are 237 graded,
okay.
But more than 100, more than half of them basically are PSA A to 2. So a 4 puts you in the top half of the population.
Yeah. So you're buying at least like average.
Yeah, you're buying average plus at a 4.
Yeah. So that feels pretty good for a GOAT.
Yeah.
Especially at his position. All All right, and here we are with the auction that just ended this past Sunday. Some pretty nice items. Here we are, what we were talking about before, that PSA 4 Puskas that went for 13.2. But just to even get one, I feel like, congratulations to the buyer. I would be stoked to have that.
Yeah.
Like that might be the one, if I were ever to um consolidate just to add a card, it might be for that. So congratulations.
And this one had really nice color. Again, the as we talked about earlier, if you zoomed in, you could see some slightly jagged areas of cut, but the reality is it has great, if just first view eye appeal, just looks really great. The colors are nice. There's not a lot of printing marks on the front. It's not, sometimes you get the kind of off printing, so you kind of get some red in the wrong places. This is really, really nice eye appeal. You kind of have to, I think it's easier to see on the back how some of the
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of obvious over here on the left side, and then down at the bottom. And then there's definitely some like scuff marks or something going along here. But let me flip it over to the back.
but it's a 4, right? So I mean,
Yeah,
it's solid,
it just feels
and
like it's like kind of the bottom isn't 90 degrees, right? Like it looks
yeah,
like it's um, kind of just off relative to the top. Um, but I mean, it's the back looks great. You know what I mean? It's like there's a lot to be said for this, and just to even get to be able to say you have one of these is pretty impressive. So
yeah. I think that I mean, obviously, I love this card. I think it's a great hobby stalwart of one of the best players ever. Has a lot going for it. It's on most serious collectors want list. So I love this card, and I certainly I wasn't surprised or disappointed by this result. I
okay,
kind of felt like this was probably right around the right price for some of the issues that they have and some of the amount of these cards we've seen in the market recently.
okay.
What did you
Um,
feel? I felt like you feel like this was light.
well, to be honest, I didn't really inspect it too much. So I mean, you'd know better than me because you're paying attention to those more than me. But just kind of pulling it out of my old brain, it just feels like, I mean, and maybe I'm anchored to like what they were selling for early on, and so I feel like this feels light. I just for the level of item it is, um, like I'm surprised that a 4 is getting close to 10K. Like I just, and maybe you pointed out some things that could be the reason, and I do buy that. But I just feel like the floor, like what did a like even like a 1.5, I feel like should be 10K. Like I mean that's just kind of where my brain is. Like I just don't feel like you should ever see this sell for under 10K.
Yeah, I think me. Yeah, I think that that's probably a decent way to look at it. So when you look at it on the floor, you say, well, it's somewhere around 5 figures. I'm not, I kind of liken it to the Lorati Mesa in terms of like importance to the hobby and just like notoriety. I think this one has something really big going against it. You'll remember, a few months ago when we looked at that 7 that was graded 7 and it sold for 18,000 bucks, but it had like, it was a 7, but like the printing was off, so it all looked like fuzzy,
Yeah.
right? And I think when you look at it relative to the 7, this is a
Yeah.
really strong performance if you were just looking at the grade,
Yeah.
you know. But I think that most people believe that, the real 7 that had sold last year in May for like 50 grand when you look at it like that, then you could make the narrative that the 4 certainly looks light relative to that 7, which was much closer to most of our eyes as a real 7,
Yeah, that
right?
makes sense. Yeah.
So I think it's hard, but based on the card, I was like, if I thought Thing was a screaming, deal on this one, I probably would have jumped in.
Yeah.
But I just kind of let them go, here, and we'll see what happens with the other 4.5 at Golden, and the other, what's the other one?
I think it's an
8.5.
8.5. Yeah.
Yeah, which I think slightly overgraded to my eyes, but I mean, it's still a great card.
Yep. All right. Next one is this early Silvio Piola. So I love this issue. It's just cool. Like the metal, it's a metal item, and it basically has the starting 11 essentially of the team. So for here's the back with the 6, and then the front with the crest with the other 5. So sweet item, early 1931. You don't see too much Piola from that early, so strong price. But I can't imagine you're going to find 20 of these out there.
Yeah, and I think that this looks good in a PSA holder. I love that Piola's on top here.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I love that they sometimes they'll flip the encapsulation and put
Yeah.
the key player that you want on the back, so that actually goes well. Of course, it's got some scratching issues like most of these do. I think it sold last time this exact one sold was for like 1,300, so you see a nice boost in the price here, from one auction to the next. And just nice to see Piola getting some love in the hobby.
Yep. Always good. All right, here we have a 2.5 SGC Titulares for 1,500. Feels like that's about going rate at this point. These Deeks 6 Dagia for 1,100. That's a strong price.
Yeah, and there's been a few of these coming out, and generally the Dicks have had some pretty strong grades. Typically,
yeah, I bought a Sastre and it was a 6.
Yeah, so I think from 4 to 6 is like the most common kind of grade range you can get. Occasionally you'll see like a 2 or a 3, and occasionally you'll see a 7 or an 8, but most of the time, a 6 is pretty much in there. And I haven't checked the pops in a while, but even though you've seen a few come out, this still isn't like a pop 15. It's still relatively hard.
Yeah. Here we have the Olympiad Copa PSA 2 MK for 840.
I love that card. It feels super light. It did have writing on the back, so I get kind of why it was kept down. Also had a crease on the front when you look at it, but it's still super rare card and so beautiful that I guess it'll always, those types of things will always keep some buyers away, but I don't think people fully appreciate how tough those cards are.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you just got to bite the bullet if you are looking to get that, because the chance or if you're very patient, you'll come across one. But it's not like that's something we see every day for sale. Here's an African Tobacco Dixie Dean PSA 5 for 750.
I love that card.
Yeah, you don't see a ton of those, so it's probably one of the hardest to find of his 30s stuff.
Yeah, and then this one comes in 2 versions. The large is the more common version, and then they have a small version as well with the exact same image.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a cool card. And this is a pretty high grade. I think most of these are relatively low in terms of the grading, as you'd expect coming out of Africa. But yeah, I kind of thought this maybe had a little bit more legs than that. But in the end, for a non-rookie 30 60 Dean end of career, I guess that's not a bad price. I don't know. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's something you don't see a lot, so I wonder if, it's just there weren't enough eyes on it. Because it is something that's kind of, I think 1939, if you're not like it dialed in, 1939 is not going to really interest you.
Yeah.
And so I think that hurts it in regard, just being ignorant of the issue. You know what I mean? So like, or uninformed might be the better way of saying that, because ignorant oftentimes has a negative connotation. So yeah, I think a lot of people aren't aware of it or know the difficulty of it. So, but yeah, it feels light just in general based on how difficult they are to get.
Yeah, African stuff is just so tough in the hobby.
All right, and here's the Orsi from that same issue as up above as the Dagia for 500 for the Orsi. I feel like that's a pretty solid price.
Yeah, to me that feels strong. I mean, there's many other Orsi issues, right, that you could get.
Yep.
I think I like the colors on. I mean, the worst thing about these Dick's transfer stamps, which I love, by the way, is that it would be so awesome if it wasn't actually the transfer stamp and it was the colors that come off of it,
Yeah.
because they look amazing when you actually use them. It's just these are unused and also pretty cool because they're unused, but it's like, man, the colors look so good.
Yeah, that's it's crazy because like the Sastre I bought was like $70 or something. So it's just like all of a sudden, like it feels like these kind of have made a little run since I bought that Sastre late last year.
Yeah, I think that's true as well. And I've just noticed a little bit more strength. I think there was a while here when stuff from, because a lot of this is from Argentina that had a pretty big dip for a while. It was a run up like everything else, and then a significant dip. And then, of course, we get, I think now we're getting kind of some more interest in from more collectors, and that's driving some of these prices up. And it's hard to think of issues, vintage issues from Argentina that are like truly easy. All of them are pretty hard. So I've noticed just kind of a creep in the baseline pricing on any issue coming out of there.
Yep. So speaking of that, we have the crack golazo of Pele. One of my favorite images, favorite cards actually. So a 1 for 500, that feels about right. That's kind of, I mean, I think at the peak it was probably going around 1,000 for a 1, but I just love that they use the American football logo.
I know. I love that card too. It's so good. I did think this Bobby Charlton went super cheap. I wish I would have seen this.
Yeah, it definitely did.
I feel like this could have done double and I wouldn't have been shocked.
Yep.
And so that I think was a great deal for the buyer.
So hopefully somebody we know got it. Pipe in if it was one of you knuckleheads in the chat.
I love that card.
Yeah. All right. So
it's a rare American from the Americana set.
Yeah.
It's authentic altered, but it's still a super rare sticker.
Yep, hard to get those. So this was cool. I never knew that there was a Kerrs Ladies in the casket cigarettes.
I didn't know that either. I saw that when I was going through the results, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool. And this Hocus Pocus was a great buy.
I also saw that one, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It's the blank back version, which
Yeah.
to me is rarer than the regular. There's like two other backs, and I'm like, and it looked good. I don't know if it would cross PSA in an 8, but it looked beautiful.
I think I paid 500 for mine.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's a tough card in that. I mean, again, I don't think PSA grades the blank back, but maybe that's the reason. But I just thought this is a great sticker, and whoever got that, congrats.
yeah, I'm pissed that I wasn't on my phone when that was going off. Like, some dollar cost averaging,
Yeah, totally.
Um, all right, so that was it for the weekly auctions, and so I was just gonna like scroll through um, some eBay saved auctions that I saved. I know I didn't get all of them, but there's just some. I figure it's worth scrolling through and see if there's anything worth talking about. I mean, PSA 1 Uwe Sila Bremer for 230. So pretty beat up. Getting 230 for that felt like a good sale. Here's 4 Sindelars for 625. Those bigger, almost postcard size, right? Like they're oversized cards.
Yeah, that seems cheap.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, Klinsman. Raw Wills Bloomer for 350. Here's a Mazzola you really don't see every day. They went for 150. I don't know if have you seen this before?
I don't. It looks like it honestly looks like a Tingles, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of. No, I hadn't seen it. What's the back look like? Blank back. I'm just not familiar with that one.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before. So I have no idea on year or anything, but that's kind of cool.
Agree.
Oh, here was a signed Cruyff that ended the other day for $1,000. But it's a Beckett. But I don't see too much, of his stuff autographed. And it's not the most desirable of
Cards.
Cruyff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing it has. Like, I'd almost prefer a postcard. At that
Yeah.
point.
Not too much else. So it doesn't look like that's abnormal. Here's a Quigo, but it's authentic for 800.
Yeah, I've noticed we haven't seen many Queagles.
Yeah.
Recently, so that's interesting.
All right, and then finally, we're gonna go to some sales on Sale Room. There wasn't anything in Heritage that I really saw that ended last month. So last one is for Sale Room, and let's see here. There are some Bane Shields, all under 100 pounds, but there was some stuff that I just was watching, like stuff I hadn't really seen before. Like, are you familiar with these? They almost look like records.
Yeah, not familiar with those at all. What is it?
I mean, I don't even know if there's athletes in it, to be honest. So maybe that's why I don't know what they are. It says football. Oh, that's why. There's other stuff in here that there wasn't a lot of stuff I knew what it was, but One for 1,100 pounds. So probably not the best thing to share. Here was just a bunch of random stuff that sold for 3,700. This is when you wish you lived over that way, or you had an address over there so you could have stuff shipped, like big collections, you know, like yeah, let's see here. Oh, there's a bloomer. Yeah, I guess nothing too exciting this last month that I had saved, at least. Yeah, Crompton.
Yeah, there wasn't a tremendous amount that
Yeah.
called out to me.
Yeah. So, oh, I wasn't even sharing that page, or
no, we were looking at your beautiful face, which is fine.
Sorry about that. My bad.
It's all good, man. You flip the hat around, so you know.
Seb won the Mazzola.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen it before, so that doesn't mean anything, but I think that was worth the shot, especially at that price. So yeah, Sale Room has some fun stuff coming up this month. So I mean, there'll definitely be some stuff for us to talk about that's you know, more interesting. But
yeah,
yeah, other than that, it just feels like things overall are doing pretty well. It seems like, you know, like you've mentioned it many times, but it feels like we've bottomed out a little bit. You know, we're even seeing it in the low grade stuff, which is promising. You know, like the PSA ones or twos of, you know, attainable items. So, good sign. Hopefully that's the bottom. Who knows if it is or isn't. But appreciate it if you guys would give us a thumbs up if you are in here. You know, and if you know anybody who's interested in vintage soccer, to suggest the Discord if you haven't already. And yeah, that's it. Happy 2025 to you all. And Al, you got anything else?
That's it, brother. Just you know, everyone enjoy Super Bowl weekend if you're in America, and you know, go out there and collect. There's still lots of amazing things on all the different auction houses, eBay, PSA. You know, the vault stuff has been great. I think that's really helped the hobby too.
Yeah.
You know, the Fanatics weekly auctions are great. So yeah, I think it's a great time to be collecting. Don't overstretch, but there's a lot of interesting stuff out there. So go get it and join the Discord if you're not in there.
Yep. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
All right, take care, everybody.